Welcome back to another video, and today we got our long-awaited college football playoff predictions. The 12-team field is finally here. Last week we made our reaction to the rankings in the field, just kind of a brief little analysis of each game. No predictions were made though. This week, today, we're going to be going in depth on all the games, predicting the entire slate, all the way up to predicting our national champion. I will say though, next week, we'll have a video reacting to the results and then predicting the second round, and so on until the end of the season. But before we get started, just wanted to say make sure you subscribe. Trying to hit 200 subscribers here shortly. That would be a pretty nice Christmas present if I do say so myself. So not only do we do college football every Tuesday, we do college basketball videos every Monday, NFL every Wednesday, and NBA every Thursday, as well as MLB content when that season is going. So if any of that interests you, make sure you go on there and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on the noties because, as I said, right now we're uploading 4 times a week. But real quick, before we make our predictions, let's look at our preseason predictions. So, as many of you may know, I am an Ohio State fan. So I predicted Ohio State to win the national title coming into the season. And I don't think that's a terrible prediction. I mean, you look at it coming in, they were the best roster. I still do believe they're the best roster in the country. I had them and Oregon making the championship game, so not a bad prediction whatsoever there. I had Georgia winning the SEC. I got that one right. Utah and Florida State were nowhere near the playoffs. I missed on Missouri. I got Boise State in there. That was correct. I didn't expect them to be the 3 seed. Missed on Miami. Missed on Ole Miss. It wasn't a spectacular prediction, but I think it definitely could have been worse. I mean, three of the top four teams I had here made the playoffs, and I think have a good chance to make a deep run. But that's going to be it for the little recap there. We're going to look at now our field for for this weekend in a couple days. It's going to be very exciting. So we're going to start off with the 5-12 game. Clemson gets in after winning the ACC. They kind of sneak into the playoffs here. Only 3-loss team to get in. They are heavy underdogs right now against Texas. Texas is an 11.5 point favorite at home. I think Clemson. I think Clemson has a chance to keep it closer than that, just because I don't know how much I trust Quinn Ewers. There's been a lot of talk if they'll switch over to Arch Manning for the playoffs. I probably wouldn't do that. Quinn Ewers is very experienced. I'd probably get him the start, but just know, I mean, Alabama benched Jalen Hurts and brought in Tua at halftime of the national championship game, and Tua led them to a victory. So if Quinn Ewers does struggle, don't be surprised if you see Arch Manning here in the playoffs at some point. We saw it against Georgia the first time around. They took Ewers out of the game, put in Manning. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I think they'll go with Ewers, though. With that being said, in Austin, I mean, maybe it'd be a little. Even if this was in Clemson, though, I'd probably still go ahead and take Texas. I'm gonna take Texas. I think there's a chance Clemson could cover. I think they're a talented team. I think Dabo Swinney's a very good coach. But with the way Texas has been playing this year, I mean, their only 2 losses are to Georgia. One of them was very close, where they definitely could have won that game. And yeah, like I said, 11.5 point favorites. I think Texas has this one pretty easily here. Now, the best game of the weekend, in my opinion. I think most people would agree with that statement. 10-2 Ohio State hosts 10-2 Tennessee. Now, I've seen a lot of people picking Ohio State, and I am an Ohio State fan. That doesn't make me feel very good even. I mean, I don't know. I just can't trust Ryan Day in these important games. We're going to see him in a playoff game. Tennessee's a very good team. I think that the fact that this is in the shoe is a huge advantage. If this was in Knoxville, I think there's no way I'd take Ohio State to win. I mean, it's just so hard. The Buckeyes left such a bad taste in our mouths after the loss to Michigan to close out the regular season. Um, I this one's pretty. I mean, you look at the matchup; it actually kind of favors Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's a team that wants to run the ball. They want to dominate the lines of scrimmage, both sides. Ohio State struggles on the offensive line. Tennessee's D line is arguably their strongest point on the team. Um, there's a lot in favor of Tennessee. The reason I'm going to take Ohio State is one, I still think the talent Ohio State has. I still believe the best roster in football as of right now. I think Nico Iamaleava going into Columbus for the night game as well. He's still a freshman. I don't love that for Tennessee's chances. I think if Ohio State doesn't do what they did against Michigan and plays to their strengths, they should have no problems winning this game. But I definitely do think it will be close here. Ohio State is 7-point favorites here. I don't know if I love that. I definitely could see Tennessee covering that. I think it's going to be a very close game. Like I said, this is probably the best first round game. I think that goes without saying. Um, but I mean, you never. I don't know. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I think the defenses are really going to shine. Both these teams have very strong defenses. But like I said, if Ohio State plays to their strengths, I think talent for talent, they're much better than Tennessee. So I'm going to take Ohio State. I don't love it just because, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Michigan game was the wake up call they needed, but it doesn't sit right with me. But I am going to take Ohio State here over Tennessee at home. Penn State versus SMU. I've seen a lot of people kind of writing SMU off in this one. I actually could see a world where SMU wins this game. I know it sounds crazy, but James Franklin, similar with Ryan Day, he just can't get it done in the big games. He's probably even worse than Ryan Day. I mean, Ryan Day has um, at least made the national championship. I mean, he beat Clemson. He nearly beat Georgia in the playoffs. He probably should have. And 2 years ago, if he does beat Georgia, he's going to obliterate TCU, similar to how Georgia did, and Ohio State would be the national champ. Penn State can't say that. I mean, under James Franklin, they really haven't had any success in the big games. They, I don't know. I think James Franklin is arguably worse than Ryan Day. I think that people don't talk about him enough. I feel like he deserves a lot of the similar stuff that a lot of people like to say with Ryan Day. But yeah, I could see SMU winning this one. Both these teams are coming off losses in their conference championship games. Both these teams are 11-2. Uh, the problem with this one is I have no idea how SMU is going to handle playing in Happy Valley. I mean, that crowd is going to be electric. Um, Bo Perbula did just transfer out of Penn State. They gotta fix that. The transfer portal cannot begin before the playoffs. I mean, that is just ridiculous. It puts all these players in terrible spots because now they could have had plans to transfer all season, but now they're in the playoffs. They don't want to give up on their team. Now, I mean, they got to do some shifting around of the schedule. I mean, it's there's a lot of problems right now in college football. I think they will address them though, at least hopefully. That was a little side rant, but I think Penn State talent for talent is much better than SMU. I think with the home field, uh, I would say I could see SMU winning this one, like I said, but on the road, I mean Penn State did just hang with Oregon. They kept it very close in the Big Ten championship game. They looked really good. The offense looked much better than I thought. Drew Aller did announce that he's coming back for one more year, so that's a plus for the Nittany Lions. I'm going to take Penn State. I think they win this one, but I think it's going to be closer than something. I wouldn't be surprised. Penn State's favored by 8.5. I wouldn't be shocked if SMU keeps it below that, but we will see ultimately what happens. I think Penn State, though, gets it done. Notre Dame versus Indiana. This is, in my opinion, the most fun game of the first round. Maybe not the best. I mean, definitely not the best. But it's two teams from Indiana that actually the only two one-loss teams here in the first round. Both these teams at 11-1. Didn't make their conference championship game. Well, Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference, but yeah, Indiana's only loss is to Ohio State on the road. Notre Dame's only loss is to Texas A&M. Or sorry, Notre Dame's only loss is to Northern Illinois. Terrible loss. Um, in week 2 of the season. This one, I, this one really could go either way. I do really like for the Irish the fact that this is in South Bend. They've had a lot of time off. I mean, so have the Hoosiers. I guess they've both had the same amount of time off. Um, I don't know. This one could get interesting. I think this one could turn into a shootout. Curtis Rourke is gunslinging. I think Riley Leonard's going to have a big day on the ground. I think Jeremiah Love is in for a huge day running the ball wise. I think Notre Dame is the more physical team. I think they're the more complete team. I think, you know, with the home field advantage, with all that being said, I think I think I'm going to go with Notre Dame, but I could really see Indiana winning this one. I could see it, but I think Indiana's going to need a lot of things to go right. I think they're going to need some turnovers. Um, yeah, I think Notre Dame's cruising right now. I think Notre Dame gets it done at home. So a little chalky in the first round. Um, I mean, I don't know. I think all the home teams win though. And there's definitely Tennessee could definitely win. I think Indiana could win. Like I said, I think SMU could even win. Um, I would even write off Clemson. I think any of these games could go either way, but I am gonna have to take the favorite in each one of these games. But moving on to the second round, we're into conference champion territory. Arizona State, the Big 12 conference champ, sitting with a bye here, getting the Texas Longhorns. I mean, just a brutal matchup here for your first game. Cam Scatterbo, I think, can have a big day. I think, the problem with this one, first of all, it's not a home game. These are all neutral site games from here on out. Arizona State was rolling. I mean, they were the hottest team in the country. Now they get what is it, 2-3 weeks off since their last game. I mean, with all the momentum that they had, with the way they were playing, I think that's the last thing the Sun Devils wanted. I think Texas wanted the break. I think Texas gets a nice little warm up game against Clemson. I think Texas comes out firing on all cylinders. I think Texas is the much better team. I think Texas wins and moves on to the semifinals. I think that one's pretty. I think people are penciling in Texas as a Final Four team, and I would go ahead and agree with that. This game, however, Oregon Ohio State, I've seen a lot of differing opinions here. Here's the thing. I mean, this game has the chance to just completely shake up everything. I mean, let's play out a scenario Ohio State wins. If Ohio State wins, I think Ohio State has a very real chance to win the championship. I think if Ohio State wins, it benefits Texas because I think Texas has a better chance of beating Ohio State than Oregon, just because of matchup. I think if Ohio State wins, I think there's a good chance Texas could beat them and then move on to the championship game. If Oregon wins, I mean, you could argue this. I mean, I don't know if I want to say that. This just goes to show the problem with the seeding. Oregon gets the first round bye. They're going to have to play either Ohio State or Tennessee, two very tough teams. If they play Ohio State, you could argue Ohio State is at worst a top 4 team in the country, maybe top 5 at worst. Um, then they'll have to play likely Texas, and then in the championship game they're going to have to play, at least projected based off seeding, Georgia. So that is just a horrible path for the 1 seed to have. But let's take a look at this game. So we've already seen this game. Oregon won it 32-31 in Eugene. Here's the thing, right? Like I said, maybe the Michigan loss is exactly what Ohio State needed. Maybe Day can use this as motivation, get the team ready to go, motivated. with a mentality of we got something to prove. I just it's so hard to look at that Michigan loss as a positive. I mean, when there's clearly negatives. Now, like I said this after the Michigan loss. After Ohio State lost to Oregon, all of the red flags were on the defense. Since then, the defense has been lights out. After the Michigan game, all the red flags looked like they were on the offensive side of the ball. So maybe Ohio State goes out and fixes it like they did against after the Oregon loss. Maybe they go out and fix the offense. Like I said, I feel like they got to give the ball to their playmaker. You can't have the best wide receiver room in the country and not give them the ball. I understand they probably have the best running back room in the country as well. Um, I don't know. I think Oregon has a good matchup advantage. I think their lines of scrimmages are good enough to give Ohio State troubles on both sides of the ball. I think Oregon's receivers are definitely a mismatch for Ohio State's DBs who love to get penalties. I think Oregon's going to target Denzel Burke like they did in the first game. I think they're going to target Igmanosin as well. Um, we've already seen this game, and yes, Ohio State probably should have won the first time. They lost by 1 point on the road. But it really comes down to, I mean, I think these teams are very evenly matched. What it comes down to for me is coaching and who do I trust more. At this point, I got to go with the Ducks in regards to that. And again, I could see Ohio State winning this one. I really could. It is going to be the Rose Bowl, so Oregon's going to essentially have the home field advantage again. I don't know. This one could really go either way. This is one of the hardest games to predict of the entire playoffs for me. Now there's a chance this game doesn't even happen. But with the way Ohio State looked against Michigan, it's really hard for me to predict them to have a deep run. Because like I said, the roster is in my opinion the best in the country. So would I be surprised if Ohio State wins this game in the rematch? No, but I think Oregon is locked in right now. I mean, they have not lost yet, and it's very hard for me to predict them to lose. So I am going to take Oregon. It's the safe pick, but again, Ohio State could very well pull this one off. Boise State versus Penn State. A lot of people are penciling in Penn State here for the semifinals. I could really see Boise State winning this game. I really could. The problem is with Boise State, it is only Ashton Jeanty. There is not much else here on this team. The defense isn't great. The offense besides Ashton Jeanty isn't great. I understand Ashton Jeanty is one of the best running backs we have ever seen in college football. He, in my opinion, got snubbed for the Heisman. I've been saying this. They're very one-dimensional. I don't love picking Penn State to make a deep run just because I'm not a huge fan of James Franklin. I feel like he's very overrated. But I do think Penn State wins this game. It gives me a little more confidence doing this with the way that Penn State looked against Oregon. I think Penn State wins. They have a very easy path here to the semifinals, in my opinion. But again, I think Penn State could lose either of these games. I just think the defensive line is bound to slow down Jeanty enough to get it done. And like I said, Boise State is very one-dimensional. I think Jeanty could have a very big game, but will it be enough? I don't think so. I think Penn State will be able to get some turnovers. Their defense is very solid. The offense looks a lot better as well. I think Penn State's playing very good at the right time. Maybe I think Penn State's arguably playing their best at the right time, which is a good sign. So I'm going to take Penn State over Boise State, but again, could go either way. This Georgia-Notre Dame game, I've seen actually a whole lot of people pick Notre Dame in this one because of the fact that Carson Beck has already been ruled out for this game. They're not sure if he'll be able to even play it in the rest of the playoffs. The thing is, it's again, the coaching in college football is so important. Who do I trust more, Kirby Smart or Marcus Freeman? I think that goes without saying. Kirby Smart's the best coach in college football. With that being said, having your starting quarterback out is definitely a red flag. Now, we saw Gunnar Stockton come in for Georgia in the SEC championship game. Georgia did end up winning that game. And watching that game, honestly, I really didn't notice a difference. Gunnar Stockton was about what Carson Beck was. I mean, I just don't see the Notre Dame pick here. I'm gonna take Georgia. I just think talent for talent, they're better. I mean, the defense is legit. I know Notre Dame has a very good running back in Jeremiah Love. I think they have a very good defense. I think Riley Leonard is solid. He can do a lot. He can definitely cause Georgia's defense, some problems with the way he can scramble. But again, who do I trust more? I trust Georgia. They just won the SEC. They just beat Texas for the second time. Their only losses are to Alabama and Ole Miss. They have a win over Tennessee. Like I said, they have 2 wins over Texas. I mean, at this point, I could see the argument for Notre Dame just because Carson Beck's out. But Georgia, I don't know. I'm going to take Georgia here. Moving on to the semifinals, we got the last 4 teams here. And, with all the complaining about the seeding problems, I understand it's not great. But when looking at this, I mean, you could definitely make the argument these are the 4 best teams in the country at this point. I think Oregon, Georgia, and Texas for sure. Now, is Penn State the 4th best team? Probably not. I think you could argue Ohio State's better because Ohio State did beat them. I think you could even argue Notre Dame could be better, maybe Tennessee. But there's always that 4th team that gets in. I mean, when we had the 4-team playoff, it usually wasn't the 4 best teams, if we're being honest. It was the 4 most deserving teams. So, I mean, I understand the seeding, and I understand the path. I mean, you look at Texas's path compared to Oregon's. It's not even comparable. Oregon's definitely has the harder path, and as the 1 seed, that should never happen. Yeah, there's definitely some problems. I'm not defending this whatsoever. Just thought I'd point that out. But looking at this game, Texas versus Oregon, like I said, if it's Ohio State here, I think there's a very good chance Texas wins that game. I think Texas can beat Ohio State. Against Oregon, though, I mean, Texas's defense has looked so good this year. But Oregon has so many playmakers. They got Jordan James running the ball. Dylan Gabriel was a Heisman finalist for a reason. I mean, their receiving core is arguably the best in the country with Evan Stewart, Tez Johnson. Dan Lanning has these guys playing with fire. I mean, Oregon has been the consensus number 1 team in the country for, what has it been, like 10 weeks now in a row? I mean, it's been a long time. Again, I worry about Quinn Ewers. I really do. He seems to just get uncomfortable in the big games. I mean, he lets the pressure get to him. Like I said, could they turn to Arch Manning at some point? Potentially. Is this the game they do it? I could see that. Oregon's just so dominant on the lines of scrimmage. I know Texas has a very good offensive line. So maybe that helps Quinn Ewers here in this one. But I think Oregon gets it done. I think Oregon goes to the national championship game just with the playmakers they have. I know Texas has a whole lot of them as well. I mean, these are 2 very good teams. Like I said, definitely 2 of the best 4 teams in the country this year. But I am going to take Oregon. They're undefeated for a reason. Give me Oregon to the national championship game. And then looking at this other semifinal game, Penn State versus Georgia. Definitely an interesting one. Again, with no Carson Beck, which, I mean, I'm not sure if Carson Beck will be back for this game. Honestly, if I'm Georgia, I'm just rolling with Gunnar Stockton. Like I said, I didn't really notice a difference. Carson Beck has been very mid to say the best. I mean, he's just not not been great. We'll say that he's been turning the ball over. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't really notice a difference. Obviously, you'd rather have Beck in just because he has the experience, but I mean, Georgia's still they're still a very good team. I know they've had receiver problems. The problem here, I would love to pick Penn State in this game. I mean, I could see, I don't know. Can I trust Penn State in these big games? I have Penn State making it farther than I would like. Now, this is where a lot of people have them making it. I I just feel so it doesn't feel right to pick Penn State to go this far. I'm gonna trust Kirby Smart. I'm gonna trust Georgia. I think they get the win. Um, I think they can do it. Now, the problem with this one, I mean, Georgia could very well lose to Notre Dame. If it's Penn State versus Notre Dame there, I don't even know who I would take in that one. Two teams that I don't really trust in big games playing. I mean, honestly, I might go Penn State. I think there's a good chance Penn State could get to a national title this year. That is crazy to me. This bottom half of the bracket is very weak compared to the top. I mean, like I said, I think you could argue Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State are all top four teams in the country, and they are all right next to each other. Um, yeah, I think you could argue this second half of the bottom half of the bracket is very weak compared to the top. I don't think that's even a question. But I think Georgia gets the win. This one is tough. I mean, both these teams are very good on the lines of scrimmage. It's really just going to come down to coaching in my eyes, and I think James Franklin is tough to trust here. I'm going to trust Kirby Smart. I'm going to trust the SEC champion. I'll take Georgia here over Penn State. And that sets up a national championship game of the 1 seed versus the 2 seed. And this year, like I have been saying, is completely wide open. I mean, you can make the argument Oregon, Texas, I've seen Ohio State, I've seen Georgia. Any of those four teams, honestly, I believe can win it all. Now, only one team can. I feel like this has been a little bit chalky. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of what a lot of people are picking. But it's just, I feel like this is what's going to happen. In the championship game, I've been pointing out the red flags with Georgia. I mean, the receivers been dropping the ball. Beck's been turning it over. They don't even have Beck anymore. It's Gunnar Stockton. I've been giving them the benefit of the doubt because they're Georgia and because they have the best coach in college football. But I would argue Oregon has the second best coach in the country. Dan Lanning, at this point, I think is deserving of that. Um, I think Oregon has overall a better roster. I think it's very close. I think Oregon definitely has the advantage on the outside. I think Oregon. I think the lines of scrimmage are very close between these two teams. But am I going to pick a team who has a backup quarterback starting, or am I going to pick the team who has a Heisman finalist quarterback? I'm going to take Oregon. I think Oregon wins the college football playoff this year. I think Oregon is your 2025 national champions. Now, Georgia, I wouldn't be surprised if they won. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas won. Honestly, I'd be a little surprised if Ohio State won. I would love for Ohio State to win. I think that's maybe what Ryan Day needs to keep his job. Now, there have been reports that that's not the case, and he's going to be back next year. Don't know how I feel about that. But I think it's Oregon's year. I've been saying this. I mean, we've seen them be the number one team for however many weeks it's been in a row. This is Oregon's year to do it. I predicted them preseason to make the national championship game. I'm now predicting them to win the national championship game. So there you go. That's my prediction. The 2025 national champs have been Oregon. Now we're going to be updating these every single week. With the results, next week we're gonna do our second round predictions. Then after that, we're gonna do our semifinal predictions, and then capping it off with the national championship predictions. So we're still gonna have college football videos for a couple more weeks. You're gonna enjoy them before it is over. Unfortunately, it is We're about to conclude the season. It's sad, but again, very exciting at the same time. We're seeing the 12-team playoff for the first time. I can't wait to watch these games. Let me know what you think. Who do you have in your semifinals, as well as who do you have winning? Let me know that down in the comments. Let me know what you agree, disagree. Love to debate down there. Links in the description as always. X, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. Make sure you follow those, join those. Make sure you subscribe if you are new. College basketball every Monday, college football every Tuesday, NFL every Wednesday, and NBA every Thursday, as well as MLB content when that season is going. If any of that interests you, make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure you check out the 2 most recent videos popping up now. With all that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys tomorrow with our NFL weekly picks.